Stop trying to calm down. Okay, can I say something that might sound a little controversial at first? Most of you are not stuck because you're too dysregulated. You're stuck because you're trying to calm yourself into a smaller life. And no one ever told you that regulation and aliveness are not the same thing. If you've done years of healing and regulating and nervous system work and journaling and meditating and all the things, and maybe you actually feel calmer, but it feels like your life isn't expanding, your relationships, your income, your confidence, your career, your ability to create and receive the life that you want. If none of that is expanding, in spite of all the healing work that you've been doing, this video is probably for you. So, somewhere along the way, healing culture taught all of us, but women in particular, that the goal is to be calm. The goal is to be regulated. The goal is to be grounded. The goal is to never be too much. And while, yes, safety and regulation matter, they are the foundation of any healing journey that we are pursuing. We need to understand how our nervous system works. Ultimately, regulating ourselves into calmness isn't the same as living a full life. Because here's the truth that no one says. If all you're ever doing is down regulating your emotions and trying to calm your body, you don't become more free, you become more contained. A lot of the women that I work with are incredibly well regulated. They come to me having practiced lots of different tools and having intellectualized their patterns, but they are incredibly underexpressed. They can talk about their trauma calmly. They can intellectualize what's happened to them and connect all the dots mentally, but they cannot tap into their body to hold capacity for big desires, take up more space. They cannot receive love in a vulnerable capacity. They cannot express anger in meaningful ways. They cannot allow themselves to truly take up space in their lives. And most importantly, they can't actually stay present with big emotions long enough for their lives to change in the direction they want them to. They can just think about their patterns, but not actually live in their bodies. And I think this is honestly where most people get stuck on their healing journey. We think that the goal is to regulate, is to calm, is to go from the chaos of trauma and wounding to a sense of peace and equanimity and this like even keeled bliss all the time. And calm is good. It's good to be able to feel at ease in our bodies. It's good to be able to feel grounded in our lives and a sense of clarity in our minds. I'm not saying that any of that is bad, but what I am saying is that the real goal of healing is not just calm, it's capacity. And capacity is what allows us to have a bigger life, a fuller life, not just a calm, steady life, but a life that is full of everything that we want it to contain, which does involve taking risks, tolerating discomfort, training our nervous system to be okay with periods of uncertainty. Here's what capacity really means. How much emotion can you feel without collapsing or dissociating? How much pleasure can you receive without self-sabotaging or numbing and shutting down? How much love can you tolerate without panicking? And how much desire can you hold without shrinking yourself? That's capacity, your nervous system's ability to tolerate more. Your real sense of identity comes from what your nervous system allows you to have access to, what feels safe for you to have in this life. So if you keep telling yourself, I just need to calm down, I just need to be more regulated, I just need to be more grounded, and you're doing all these practices, but it comes from this perspective of like constantly trying to fix yourself and your life isn't actually expanding in the direction that you want it to, it's probably because your system doesn't yet have the capacity to hold what you want. Your nervous system and subconscious beliefs are not yet in alignment with that version of your identity. And I lived this for many years. I was deeply self-aware. I had done so much inner healing work. I constantly practiced self-care and manifestation practices on a daily basis. I learned to be calm. I learned to not let my old triggers trigger me. I learned to regulate on a regular basis. I did all the spiritual practices. I was doing all the things and my life was very small. It was very rigidly organized around doing all those practices in order for me to feel okay each day. And there wasn't a lot of wiggle room for life. My relationships were underwhelming at best, rocky at worst. I wasn't earning what I really wanted to earn. I often played it safe and avoided taking risks, and I very rarely expressed my true needs and desires. I just kind of did what I needed to do to not rock the boat, set boundaries when I had to, but for the most part, kept my life very contained and structured around all of these healing practices. And at the time, that's what I needed. I was at a phase in my journey where I needed my life to become a little bit smaller so that I could access a sense of peace, so that I could access a sense of grounding. It wasn't that I didn't know any better. It was just that at the time, that was the stage of the journey I was at. Until eventually, I got stuck in that place. And I knew that my life was calling me to be bigger, but I hadn't yet built the inner capacity to match that bigness. There were all these things that I really wanted, but my nervous system and self belief couldn't yet tolerate being that woman that I envisioned for me. So when I finally started to build internal emotional capacity and practice embodiment rather than practicing just regulation and calming down, that's when everything began to change. My standards rose dramatically. I began to identify as the version of me who had the kind of life and relationships and experiences that I wanted and didn't tolerate less than that. It just became my new reality. My relationships and friendships improved as a result. My income started to grow. My confidence was 100 times what it ever was before. And I actually started seeing changes in my physical appearance and in my body as a result of the new confidence that I was embodying, not the other way around. And it wasn't because I was like manifesting harder, hustling harder, working harder. It was because my body finally felt safe to match that level of identity that I already knew was somewhere there inside. So if you're hearing this and it's sounding familiar to you, maybe it's time that you stop asking, how do I calm down? How do I fix this problem? How do I get more regulated? And instead, try asking yourself, how do I build the capacity to feel more without collapsing or numbing out or getting overwhelmed? And that means feeling a whole spectrum of emotions that maybe you didn't give yourself access to feel before, like giving yourself permission to feel anger without minimizing it, allowing grief to move through you without diminishing it, letting yourself feel pleasure without guilt, and allowing yourself to hold the fullness of your desires without making them smaller to make them more comfortable or more palatable. That's embodiment. It's the integration of everything that you learned, all those practices that you learned in your healing phase. Those were so important. And now it's time that you actually live those tools and practices, live those lessons that you gained from the harder chapters of your life, and give yourself access to more. The version of you who embodies all of those lessons and allows herself to feel what she's feeling without her emotions dictating her day-to-day experience. So this is where emotional discernment, a little bit of even emotional discipline comes in, where we can fully honor a feeling without letting our choices be dictated by that feeling. Our choices are dictated by our values and our inherent self-identity, who we believe we are and the life that we want to create. That is the phase of growth that I see so many women are actually ready for, but just don't have language for just yet, because so much of traditional self-help and personal growth and healing centers around constantly doing practices rather than embodying what we've learned. And if this resonates with you, it probably means you are ready to expand your capacity. There's a part of you who has been in that healing cocoon long enough and is ready to break out of it and to grow a life that feels fuller, richer, bigger, has more depth, has more nuance to it. And I know it can be a little scary too. Part of the work is tolerating uncertainty, tolerating the discomfort of the unknown, of having fear, and being able to show up as the most embodied version of ourselves anyways. So if that's something that's really calling for you, first I recommend subscribe to my channel. That's what we're talking about here, is all things capacity, nervous system, embodiment work, somatic practice, and not just healing for the sake of being in the identity of healing, but healing for the sake of expanding our lives. If you want to dive deeper into this work, I have an embodiment mentorship program. It's a 4-month somatic mentorship program called Embodying Her. There's a few spots left for women who are full on ready for this work to join either the group container or group and one-on-one, I will link all of that in the description below, so you can go check it out. We start February 3rd. And as you'll see, this work is not about fixing yourself and changing your patterns. It's about becoming the version of you, becoming the woman who can hold the life you actually want. Your only job right now is to listen to the truth your body is whispering to you. If it feels like a yes, reach out. And if it's not a yes just yet, allow yourself to continue to explore what feels right for you. Ultimately, your body knows. Your job is to learn to trust it.